What are some adult, non-NSFW, versions of Santa isn't real? Your parents really had no idea what they were doing. This realization has actually given me a lot of empathy and acceptance for how my parents acted during my childhood. I've become a parent myself, and if my kid does something weird, I can just Google the problem and find a wealth of information. They didn't have that, and just had to wing it and sit with all the uncertainties and fears I have now. Child labor and slavery still exists and contributes to our comfort. It was so easy for me to ignore. Then I started working with refugee populations who would mention starting working at 5 or 6 years old at factories or in farming. My nephews are that age, and all they care about is Sonic the Hedgehog. Suddenly I am having a conversation with someone who experienced real trauma because of consumer needs. They aren't a theoretical child, but a real person in my life. It's almost impossible not to spend money on stuff that was made in unethical conditions, especially as a working-class American, but we can all make small changes that minimize some harm. I intend on keeping my phone until I absolutely can't use it anymore. I've already opted to get it fixed several times instead of replacing it. I have stopped buying most fast fashion, boycott Shine, buy almost all of my clothes, shoes used, with some exceptions, men's stuff instead of replacing, throwing away, avoid certain brands that are well known for bad labor practices, and shop local fair trade as often as I can. I would very much like to hear more about your work, these people's experiences, what they've told you, and how it has changed how you see the world. I think we all need regular reminders about these sort of things. The conversation often stays on the questions I need to ask, such as, how much money do you make? Or, did you bring your I-94? But will sometimes naturally digress with more chatty clients. The most common thing is that parents are excited their children are able to enroll in school instead of having to work, the way the parents did. I had one father come in 2 days after arriving in America just so he could apply for Medicaid for his children so they could have physicals as soon as possible to start school and even do sports, because they didn't have the ability in Congo. I've had a Congolese client talk about her experiences hardly being paid for her labor, but working so hard she didn't get to see her kids, and losing a pregnancy because of stress. I've known about injustices within our world for a long time, but prior to my current job, it was detached from any connection. After meeting people, I have a human context for the real, exploited people thousands of miles away. It gives a quick reminder that humans are the same everywhere. They all should be entitled to freedom and dignity, but many of them are denied this because of consumer demands and capitalism taking advantage of the crappy situations that war and colonialism have created. I also have to remember, these are only the stories of the people who have found the ability to escape. For every client I see in my little city, there are thousands more who still live in horrid conditions, are forced to work at young ages, and are being exposed to violence and trauma that we, as Americans, are almost 100% never going to have to experience. Being around refugees has made me very grateful for the objectively privileged life I have. I have never been hungry. I have always had access to education. I never had to worry about war or violence taking my family from me, etc. It has also made me angry. Much of my comfort has come at the cost of other people. I have this phone because some 13-year-old in Congo dug up some rare earth minerals instead of going to school. My clothes were made by a woman in Bangladesh working a 16-hour shift and exposing herself to abuse and toxic chemicals just so maybe she can feed her kids. My food comes from people who are barely paid. Bad things happen to good people, and vice versa. It was the opposite that really got to me. When I was a kid, I was taught that being good was its own reward and to not expect good things to come just because I was good, so I was ready for that. When the realization hit me that no matter how good I was or how bad other people were, the bad people often get the rewards, it broke my worldview. Shitty customers who cause a stink get what they want just so they'll shut up, but the polite customer is denied a return. The a-hole who leaves their cart in the middle of nowhere gets to go home faster, while the guy who goes and collects that cart has to spend an extra 90 seconds in the cold rain. The billionaire CEOs can and do get away with murder, but if I stole a box of screws from work, I'd lose my job and likely everything else I have. This world punishes you for doing your best to be a good person, and rewards shitty behavior. It made it hard to be kind and do the right thing for a few years. Ultimately, I realized that being shitty only made me more miserable, So I'll be as kind as I can until I die, possibly because I was too kind. Being kind gives you dopamine. Being cruel gives you cortisol and material wealth. And material wealth ultimately just gives you dopamine. Being kind skips the middleman, so be smug about it. Nah, returning the cart makes you a good member of the tribe and gives you experience points. When you're older and have met tens of thousands of people, you can read these experience points on people like a scorecard and can tell who is a solid motherfucker and who isn't. Being decent changes the way you come across. It begets good things as people trust you and take you seriously. Most adults are just grown-up children. You don't magically earn a ton of knowledge when you turn 18. Everybody is just improvising. Around 10 to 15% of all adults haven't grown to become adults and never will in their lifetime. Probably close to 30 to 40%. It's astonishing how stupid and lacking critical thinking so many adults are, especially outside of their area of expertise. You have to pay for your teeth now. This doesn't answer the question, but I found out Santa wasn't real when I walked in on my parents' dresses as Santa and his little elfette doing the deed doggy style. At least nobody was lacking in Christmas spirit. Religion was invented to keep people in their place and make it easier to exploit them. Looks matter a lot. Sorry. We're taught that working hard earns promotions, raises, respect from your bosses and coworkers. It's how you rise to the top. Then you grow up, and you're hit with the truth. The reward for hard work is usually just more work. Like corporations, academics isn't a meritocracy either, especially in the US, where college is paid to play. There are some bright people at the top, but many people only have degrees because they had the money and time. I worked in research labs, and the publish or perish culture really takes a lot of the integrity out of the work that is done. Degrees and accolades are a reflection of class, before intelligence, expertise, or hard work. God isn't real. My first thought. In fact, there's more evidence for the existence of Santa. Presents appearing under the tree, the finished milk and cookies you left for him, seeing him at the local mall. Most people are bad at cooking. They produce edible food, but it's really not that great. This includes your parents. I got a lot better at cooking once I learned that restaurants' secret ingredients were a whole lot more salt and butter than what I was using originally. I'm a teacher, and I was always on kids' cases for throwing non-recyclables into the recycling bin. I really pushed the whole sorting your trash thing. Then another teacher informed me that the school board does not actually have a contract for recycling. So even though we have blue bins and garbage bins in every classroom, it all just ends up in the garbage. The recycling bins are a lie. I had really, genuinely thought those bins were for real. Wait until you find out what happens to most of those recyclables when picked up by the recycling truck. I'm not saying recycling is bad or a worthless endeavor, but I am saying most of the products you toss in the recycling bin aren't recyclable or deemed financially worth recycling. It's something like 80% ends up at the dump. Sorry. Young adult, scholarships and financial aid would cover my education, or at least most of it. Older, if I get X income, I won't have to stress about money. Doctors aren't all smart. My mind was blown the day I recognized that doctors can be idiots who were good at their chosen subject through school and muddled through residency. Seeing all the tax taken out of your first paycheck. The police are like the HR department of the country. They're not there to protect you, they're there to protect the government. It is firmly established law that the police have no duty to act in any situation, and no liability when they fail to. Some professionals only have their titles because they had the free time and resources to get through the education. Some professionals have their titles because they worked 3 times as hard as everyone else and put in the time and effort to excel. Frequently they will have the same uniform or the same title, and you will never know which is which. The legal system is the farthest thing from just. Unlivable minimum wage and class war are just modern terms for slavery. Earth's future is mass extinction. Oh, I wouldn't worry. Humanity will kill the planet way before the sun dies. That there's a certain age when you feel like a grown-up. I'm 40, and other than some additional responsibilities, I don't ever feel particularly grown up. My fav one is that stripper poles spin instead of the strippers themselves, and I was like, what? 90% of office work including yours, is fake and useless. It's just sending receiving email to put numbers into Excel sheet. You'll say, but it's big money I operate. Those money is also fake. Those are just ones and zeros on a server somewhere. One big solar flare that can happen any second now even as I type this. And it's gone forever. Quite often, luck beats hard work. You'll never have friends the way you did at 16 ever again. Sometimes there really is no second chance. Sometimes if you fuck up with a girl, a job, an interview, whatever, the ship has sailed for good, you simply cannot make it right. Similarly, if you postpone to do something, it is possible that you simply can't do it by the time you make up your mind. There are currently 14,000 religions on planet Earth. 99.9999% of people who have ever lived do not believe yours, even if you're one of the largest religions today. Most of them believe you're going to their hell. Life is fucking ass. There's no higher purpose or intent. We all end up alone as we die. Do you have a similar story? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.